Hi, this video is for exercise 1 of week 4 in 235. This is the spring boot exercise where we are using the city repository code. Alright, so get right into it. So as far as talking points, we want to go over a couple different points here. First one's going to be going over a couple of annotations in Java that aren't Spring annotations. Two that I found that aren't used in Spring are override and deprecated. So an override annotation, it's only used on methods, and the method annotated with it must override a method from a superclass. If it doesn't, a compile error will result. I want to say we've used overrides on toStrings in the past. And then the second one we haven't used yet, but the second one I researched was deprecated. Basically, it marks the function as obsolete and will cause a compilation warning if it's used in the program. Point 2 is to define a Spring bean. So in Spring, the objects that form the backbone of our application and that are managed by the Spring IOC, which is a version of control container, are called beans. The bean is an object that is instantiated, assembled, and otherwise managed by a Spring IOC container. Point 3 is to define inversion of control dependency injection. So IOC is the process where an object defines its dependencies without creating them. This object delegates the job of constructing such dependencies to the IOC container. And then dependency injection is defined as a technique where one object or static method supplies the dependencies of another, and dependency is an object that can be used, basically like a service. Point number 4, to run through the main method of the web app. So I have that brought up here, and discuss any annotations. So the only annotation we have is at Spring Boot application, and so the Spring Boot application annotation itself basically auto configures. Well, let me think about this a little bit better. So basically, it's an auto configuration component scan, and it allows us to define extra configuration on our application class. This annotation is used to enable like 3 main features. One of them is enable auto configuration, component scan, and configuration. So enable auto configuration obviously is what it sounds like. It's enabling Spring Boot's auto config mech. Component scan is scanning the package where the application itself is located. And then configuration allows the register of extra beans in context or import additional configuration classes. So basically sets everything up. It's really similar to reflection, whereas reflection does a lot of the same kind of things, but it seems reflection is more intended for strictly Java-based applications, like console-based. I don't know. I really was trying to dig into that a little bit harder, as to when you would use reflection over like a Spring application. But it seems like Spring applications are more commonly used currently in the world, based on most everything being like a web style application. But the two are very similar in their behavior. That's most definitely for sure. Point 5 was to review the code we added in controllers, models, and services package. We did all this in class. So basically, we have 3 variables. We have a short integer, or a short number for city ID. We have a string for the city, and then a short for the country ID, as well as a local date time for last update, which is going to update automatically when we make changes. And then city ID automatically increments, even if the number's been deleted. It'll continue on the last known number that was used. And then just the getters. These are pretty straightforward. These are just going to get the city, get the last update so we can display that, get the city ID and country ID, again, so we can display all that information. Models, that was the one I just covered. Services. Hang on. Okay, just had to go back and check because I was reading that and it didn't make sense. It was talking about covering the services package, but there, from what I can tell, based on... Okay, I think the service is supposed to be repositories. I think that was just a typo, maybe. Because there are no services in this particular application. There is a repository, though. So the repository package in this case is our interference for city repository. And then that extends JPA repository with the city and the short number. I think that's supposed to be the services one. And then controllers. This one's quite simple. Well, I shouldn't say simple. It's not very simple. So basically, this is something we did in class. It'll end up printing out the memory location because there's no toString, but just going to nick that for now because there's no need for it. So basically, we have 2 get maps, a post map, a put map, and a delete. So the first get is going to be getting all the cities in the repository. The second get is getting the city based on the ID, the short ID. Posting is just creating a new one, which we'll go over. Update is very similar. It's just we're going to input the city ID number that we want to update along with the information we want to change, and then it will go ahead and update that. And then there's delete, which we can get rid of the city listing altogether. I would say by far the delete is probably the most intricate of them. So what happens here is it will we run city repository find ID by the ID number. That way we can verify it's actually in the system. And then if it's not, what will happen is it'll go ahead and throw this exception or this response that city wasn't found. Then we can re-enter it again, and then the if clause will run once the ID is valid. So if the ID is valid, then it'll go ahead and print, or not print. It will delete the. It'll go ahead and delete the ID we inputted, and then we can rerun get, and we can see that there isn't one there. So I'll just go ahead and get right into Postman. And we're going to start with the get all first. So we can see we currently have 600 cities that are there. I have this one that we can post. this is going to change. So I have the city of KL in the country of USA, which is 103 in this case. I'm going to go ahead and send that. And then we can see we got city ID of 619 back. And then the last update is null because this is the first entry for that. We'll go ahead and get that in all to show that it is displaying there. And we can see that it does display, has the current date and time, because that is when it was added. And we'll go ahead and get by ID. So this was 619. So we'll do 618 just to show that portion. We can see not found, city not found. 619, we can see that it will go ahead and display our information for us. City, country ID, and then the last time it was changed. We'll go ahead and do update. So right now we're on 619. And we'll go ahead and change we'll leave the country the same. So we're going to change the city name to Pohoiki. And then we'll go ahead and run that. And we can see we got that information back. And that last update did not. We didn't return anything. So we can see this is the original timestamp for the original posting. So we'll go ahead and get the ID now. Should be a different time. We can see it was 1809 when it was changed. And the name is changed there, 619, Poiki. And then if we run this one more time on the all, we can see that everything is updated just fine. And we go to delete. We'll do 618 again just to show that. We can see that it does come back as nothing there. And then if we run 619, we'll get nothing back. Because when we try and run it, it has been deleted. And one more time to verify. We can see it's gone. And I believe that's it. So until next time, ahui ho.